Hello, everybody, and welcome back to F1 Unhinged. I'm Tyler,
And I'm Josh.
and we're back after a slightly exciting but also angering Silverstone weekend in F1. We had a pretty decent NASCAR race, and yeah, we're just gonna fucking wing it today. So, where are we at, Josh? What we doing?
Uh Red Bull's a shit show and it's really pissing me off.
That is honestly the truth.
The dumpster So I want to bring you back to a conversation we had before I don't even think we had a podcast yet. If so, we had just started it. No, we definitely didn't have a podcast yet. Do you remember when Dietrich died?
Yep.
We had a conversation where I said I'm worried this is the end of Red Bull.
And you did say that, and I think it was a text conversation, honestly.
I feel like my fears are starting to come to fruition with exactly what I was worried about. That the management structure would change, they would remove the old guard, and then you'd get a bunch of boardroom guys who don't actually understand how to run a race team. Well, fucking here we are. Because all the old guard's gone, and while it's not the boardroom guys completely fucking things up, it's the guys that forced their way into positions and forced other people out. Like, in Max and his camp take some blame for this. You know, look, I don't criticize Max much, but I'm going to here. Red Bull wouldn't be this bad of a shit show if Christian Horner was still running the show.
He was also at Silverstone this weekend.
Yeah, thought that was interesting. The fact is, even when things got bad for Red Bull, it never got to this level of anger with a driver.
Yeah.
There were some moments with Renault where they were really pissed off about the engine, but the fact is the car was never the problem. Until Dietrich died and Helmut and Jos Verstappen started digging their own heels and personal agendas in. Now Christian's gone, Newey's gone, a lot of people are gone. And the whole company's a dumpster fire. Like, you can't figure out how to get your wing to work. This is the second time that Max has been thrown into a fucking barrier in 2 weeks because they can't figure out how to fucking work a rear wing.
Isn't Red Bull supposed to give you wings?
Yeah, it gave Max wings all the way to the fucking wall. Once is an accident. Once can happen. Twice is bullshit. And the fact that Max has the ability and has a car under him to fight for wins and podiums right now, these stupid mistakes can't happen. And some of that is a legacy of Mekis because let's not forget, as good as he was at Racing Bulls, they had a lot of pit stop issues. They had a lot of dumb little issues that would occasionally come up. How many times did we talk about them costing Yuki points or them costing Lawson points from bad strategic decisions? We're seeing that now. And I'm telling you, it's not long till Hannah's gone. She's already been kind of phased out a little bit to where she's only at the track half the time. It's not long till she's gone.
She's only been at the track half the time?
Yeah. She's splitting strategy with another member of the team.
Wow.
Yep. Yep. And to be fair, I don't know if that's a personal decision from her because of how long the seasons have gotten. I don't know the internals of that, but
It's still
nobody's
not
left.
it's still not good because you're basically for Max and Red Bull as a whole, they're splitting the strategy between two different people who will
Yeah.
make two different calls based on intuition.
Yeah. And we'll get onto the race and what happened and Charles' amazing performance because I do want to give him his flowers for a great race and the way that he controlled so many things. It just really had a great, great race. But I think what's frustrating to me is when Red Bull's car was dog shit completely, it was whatever. Like, all right, this is a shit box. It's gonna be one of those seasons. Look, I'm a diehard Red Bull guy. I remember the shit box when Vettel left.
I mean,
Like,
you've had a flag behind you ever
yeah.
since the very first episode.
But this isn't my first rodeo. Max isn't the first time that I've watched Red Bull. Like I've been through crappy eras of Red Bull. I expected it to come eventually, so that doesn't bother me. That's just the sport and how it works. I get to lean on the glorious seasons that we had, and the last two seasons aren't that. Last year was almost an epic comeback. This year, no chance. My problem is this is the second week in a row Max has had a car that can compete at the top. And not just Max, Hadger too. Hadger actually outqualified Max this week. He finished fifth. He's been doing really good. So you can tell the platform of the car is at least decent. You know, they're coming from behind, so but they can fight for wins or at least podiums. When you have mistakes like this in those situations, that's not that's not Red Bull. The thing I love about Red Bull and why I fell in love with Red Bull really during their crappy era, during when they weren't winning, is because if you open the door even a little bit for Red Bull, their superior operation would win them races. If you made one mistake, Red Bull was always there to capitalize. If Mercedes messed up, it was Red Bull coming through the door more times than not. That doesn't exist anymore. And it bothers me because that's the identity of the team that I fell in love with, and it doesn't exist. And that
That's
bothers
valid.
me.
Yeah,
Like drivers come and go. If Max leaves, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, it happens. And I'll root for whoever takes his seat. And I'll root for whoever's coming through because I am a fan of that team above all. But it does frustrate me when you have a driver this good. This must be what Mercedes fans felt like with Lewis. When when the car wasn't the best and Mercedes operations weren't great and they made a bad situation worse. I imagine this is what Mercedes fans felt like with Lewis. Like, this guy is so good. How are you screwing this up? All you have to do is get him close and he'll do the rest. How do you guys keep fucking this up? And this is the
is how.
second week in a row that I feel like they fucked something up. I still feel like he would have won if they pit him at the right point last week. And now this week,
If they let
he's,
him start from the fucking pit.
yeah, if they fix the problem, he had the pace to get up there.
And
It drives me crazy.
it's not even, and it's not even inherently a bad car. Like, the car itself has proven to be good.
Yeah, they at
He's
least
competed.
fixed the platform.
Yeah, he's competed. The problem is that they're not fixing the fucking problem that's putting him into barriers. Thankfully, in Silverstone, he didn't end up in the barrier. but in Austria he did. And it's the same fucking problem. It's the same weird rear wing issue that they had this weekend and last weekend that has him
Well,
pissed. Because I'm sure he's shouting from the top of the fucking mountains. He doesn't even have to shout. He could even just talk normally and say it. And they're not listening to him.
and there's a lot of internal tension at Red Bull right now,
Yeah.
and with him not wanting to accept the buyout for his release clause, that has Red Bull feeling some type of way. But
Money doesn't always speak. He's
you,
done everything he needs to do. Like, he's racing for the passion, not for the fucking championship.
when I think that this is the problem with board dudes running a team, is to them money is the end all. Everyone has a price that you can buy them out. But when you have someone like Max who has plenty of his own money, married into a family that has plenty of their own money, his family has plenty of its own. Money is not the object for Max anymore.
No, it's just the fucking excitement and
Yeah,
enjoyment of doing it.
Max is all about the racing, and you're not going to get him to give up for money.
Yeah.
That's just not gonna happen. And
Well, he's kind of married into a family with money, and he's also a part of a family with money, so he knows I'm fine either way.
well, and Yas, for very good reasons, gets criticized a lot for how he raised Max. But the good part of how he raised Max was teaching Max not to make these kind of mistakes. Never make the decision for money, purely for competition. Everything has to be a competition. During his junior career, that's why they didn't join an academy. They didn't join the Red Bull Academy till they were guaranteed a seat the next year if they joined. And that's when he joined. He was a late joiner. He ran under his own name and own colors. Up until then, part of his F3 season was in a Verstappen orange and black liveried car. There's a reason behind that, because they didn't want to be tied into anything and have limited options. They wanted a seat in F1, and they were going to do everything they could to get that seat, even if it meant not having an academy and doing it on your own. And they did that, and they were successful in that. And there's a lot of lessons that ingrains to you, and he follows a lot of that. And let's be real, he's got 4 titles. He's happy with that. Max could walk away tomorrow and be fine with that and go do endurance racing and rack up some titles there.
Yeah, that's true.
He's always said that now that he has now that he got a title, he'll do it as long as it's fun. It doesn't look very fun right now. And I think a lot of that is just them not listening. And it's frustrating that you don't listen to your driver, but maybe that's what happens when you get rid of the team principal who did.
Who was also there that weekend.
Yeah. And I mean, I stand Christian Horner. I'll admit that, but
The dude knew how to run a fucking team.
he knew how to manage both sides of it. And the problem is right now, Mekis is starting to feel like he's in over his head on the non-technical elements. And now it's starting to affect the technical elements.
Have you seen the renewed Ashton Martin Christian Horner rumors?
Yes, I have.
It's interesting.
It would be funny if him and Nui end up working together again after the drama with Christian Horner being why he left.
It would be. And I'm kind of wondering, like, this is the second time we've seen these rumors come around. I'm almost questioning whether or not that's why he was at the track as he was. He wasn't just I mean, he said he showed up as a fan, but no fans get paddock access. Like at least normal fans.
Which I mean, he with his pool in the sport, that's not an impossible thing. Being a British
Yeah.
guy, and I mean,
Yeah, but I'm
he,
just curious as to whether there
well,
was actually that much beef between Newey and Horner.
Newey left because the drama was too much, and he didn't like the drama. It wasn't necessarily
I feel like the drama
a
was the
hatred.
board. I feel like
No,
the drama.
the drama was Zach Brown. Zach
Mm,
Brown really, really Christian should nobody like this should be in F1. If it was McLaren, he'd be fired. And then already he backtracks on everything because just like we thought, most of the shit wasn't didn't even end up being true.
yeah.
It was overblown by Zach Brown to get his rival out. He won. Congratulations. And then Toto Wolff played you for a fucking fool. And now you have to figure out how to make an engine.
Well, Zach Brown normally overblows things, but he seems to be underblowing the fact that Max could move to McLaren. And I'm calling bullshit on his underblowing scheme because he's very much PR trained. Whether he's trained or not, he's very much all about the PR. And he's saying both Lando and Oscar are in McLaren for as long as they want to be, and that their names are engraved in their fucking seats and this
Yeah.
and that. Meanwhile, Oscar has an exit clause that can be triggered at any point throughout the season at this point.
Yeah. If Oscar's name's engraved in that seat, their little Bahraini trust fund funding that team has a nice little cover up to get it out of the way. Trust me.
Yeah.
You really think that his higher powers that he answers to will let him say no to a Max? Come on.
Fuck no. Fuck no. Well, and I said this in pre-show, and I'll say it again. Zach Brown has been coming for Max in more than one way for years, both action-wise and also personally.
He would trip over himself if Max would actually sign on the dotted line. Let's be real here, and he is. Let's also be real, Matt. How do I want to say this? Zach is a poacher. That's what he does.
He's
He
a
poaches people.
he's not a
How did they get Oscar?
he's not a poacher. He's a vulture.
They fucking smartly got Piastri. Not
Somehow.
so smartly got Pillow and got sued and had to pay a bunch. Pillow had to pay a bunch of money for it. They just got Scott Dixon and Rosenquist and IndyCar.
We'll touch on that later.
This is what Zach Brown does. Zach Brown lets other people develop drivers and then he steals them with money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I refuse to believe that he wouldn't do that again for Max, especially when we know Mark Webber, who manages Piastri, can't fucking stand Zach Brown and has a deep relationship with Red Bull.
I'm actually honestly really stoked for Piastri to go to Red Bull because then I root for Red Bull.
I don't know if he does though.
But also, I'd be stoked if Max went to McLaren because I'm also a McLaren fan. So,
Oh! I would hate Max instantly. Oh,
you'd hate him more if he went to Mercedes. Let's be honest. You said this last week. You said you would hate it more if he went to Mercedes. You said this. We can go back and I'll pull up the clip and show it right now if you
I
want me
know what
to.
I said, but in retrospect, I don't. It goes week to week who I hate more, Zach Brown or Toto Wolff.
But
But
that's
at least Toto, I have some respect for.
that's not what you said last week.
I know, but things have changed in a week, and Zach Brown pissed me off with the dumb shit that he said. I'm sorry, but pretending Lando or Piastri are better than Max is fucking stupid. I know he's saying it for the sake of those are our drivers, and they proved they could beat Max. No, they proved that they needed a car twice as fast as Max just to beat him in a championship that he still almost won. You had the best car for the whole year, and you still only won a title by 2 points. Shut the fuck up. But that's me.
That's valid.
Toto gets on my fucking nerves too. I can't stand his little conniving ass. But at least I have respect for him because he raced. I can respect somebody who's really done it. Not went out there in a little sports car and pretended that they raced. No, actually did some real racing. Had some real wrecks. Did the thing. I can respect that even if I don't like him. I
That's
don't
valid.
respect Zach. I have no respect for Zach. It's probably the only team principal outside of Flavio I would say that about.
Really?
Those are the two team principals I have zero respect for and think F1 would be better without their faces.
That's interesting. Also, sorry, trying to fix my lights here. One of them died, so.
Yeah, well, that's what you get for trying to put lights up at the last minute like a dum dum.
Well, no, they're supposed to last 3 weeks, but I charged them literally like 3 days ago, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's why we don't trust charging times.
Also true.
That's why I have plug-in lights because then it doesn't matter.
Well, so I have a lamp, but it like overly lights my face no matter what I do.
So I guess now we can talk about Leclerc, who had a great win that he probably would have held on to on the last lap. Would have been fucking nice to see. But I'm gonna step outside of my normal box of hating the FIA, and I actually don't blame them on this one. I get what happened. It's unfortunate and stupid, and but I also do think it's hilarious that Mercedes lost out on a chance to win a race because of the rule that they were so desperate to get implemented that they had to chase a race director out of his career for it. Because now we know what ended up happening, which is they didn't get the notice for the lap cars to overtake the safety car when it was sent out because there was some software issue. The message came through after they crossed the start finish line, which meant that the safety car couldn't come in at the end of that lap. It had to wait a lap, which was then the end of the race. And that's a rule that Mercedes forced to be implemented after Abu Dhabi. So there is a part of me that's like, you guys lost the race on your own rule. Karma.
That race ending pissed me off so much. And obviously there's more than just the FIA fucking up with their software that created this issue. Obviously Mercedes and Toto Wolff were the ones that wanted this to be a thing, but it still pisses me off. that race would have changed within that last lap.
Well, see, that's what happens when you allow for no gray area because the gray area screwed you.
Well, maybe you should just cry into a blanket over the gray area and not fucking vow to change it.
Speaking of gray area, I know this is getting off topic, but did you see the horrible luck Carlos Sainz had?
He had a penalty, didn't he?
So Carlos Sainz got a penalty for unlapping himself
Oh yeah, I saw that.
when he was told to unlap himself. The problem was he was no longer considered a lapped car, even though he was a lapped car, because the weird way that Silverstone works, if you pit, it's actually faster than taking the safety car around those corners. So when Carlos Sainz went to pit during the safety car, he actually had unlapped himself by the line. So he was at the line, no longer considered a lap down, even though after the pit he was again a lap down. So when the lap cars were told to unlap themselves,
He did.
he was not one of the cars listed as a lap car who could unlap themselves. So when he unlapped himself, he broke a rule.
And now he has a lap added to his.
Yeah,
Like,
it was a full lap penalty.
And what does that do in the grand scheme of things if you're that behind? Like nothing, to be honest.
Yeah, it's meant to be implemented so people can't. If you noticed Norris asking if he could pit to win because Schumacher did that once. That's part of why the rule exists. Is that
Michael Schumacher did that.
he went into the pits and won the race because of it. And there's more to that story. It's a little more complex than that, but that's kind of the basic of it. And so that's kind of a rule now that if you unlap yourself when you're not supposed to, you get a lap penalty. So it's basically meant to throw you back to where you were supposed to be. Unfortunately for Carlos, he was a lap down, unlapped himself, and then became another lap down. But weirdly, he actually would have lost more positions if he didn't do it.
Yeah.
If he let all the other cars go by who were a lap down, he would have actually lost more somehow in some way that I don't understand.
It's so convoluted. And it's like at the end of the day, it's like he finished in a place where no points were given. So what the fuck does it matter?
Well, it's just some things are black and white rules, and that's one of them. That if you unlap yourself when you're not allowed,
Well,
you get a lap penalty.
Maybe they should enforce the same rules when fucking rules count versus not for points.
Well, but that still matters because, you know, if you have teams that don't score points, then it's your next highest position. Or if you, it could factor into a tiebreaker somewhere or affect somebody else's position in a tiebreaker or something. The rule has to be the rule.
But we both know the FIA can barely follow their own fucking rules.
That's just one of those unique situations where it's not going to happen anywhere else but that track.
Yeah.
Where most tracks you don't pit and go faster than the safety car.
I will say Silverstone was a really entertaining race, not only for the Grand Prix, but also for the sprint race. The sprint race was fucking awesome to watch.
No, the racing was decent.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I'm sad that the Max wreck ruined what could have been a really interesting finish. But I also wish it would have happened a lap sooner so we could have got an actual finish. But that is what it is. And I mean, Leclerc was probably going to win that race anyway. He had fresh soft tires. He was going to be able to get out to a jump, and they wouldn't. be able to just completely deplete the battery in that lap, and would have probably been good, but you would have just liked to see it.
Yeah. I was honestly, and Chris and too. We're just rooting for George Russell to not be on the podium.
Dude, what's up with the Mercedes engines?
I don't
They
know.
they are destroying themselves left and right.
Yeah. Yeah, because Kimmy got fucked.
Yeah.
Kimmy
Uh,
got super fucked.
which, in fairness to the championship, is what happened to George in Canada.
But
So,
you know, my anybody that's listened for a long period of time knows that I'm still searching for that cease and desist. So like,
yeah. Well, just these are the things that happen in a championship. And now Kimmy's got to be able to rebound.
did you
To
see?
me, a championship lead never matters until you leave Spa. That's when I care who's winning the championship, because the middle of the season has a way of crushing people, and a lot of crazy results. Even in 2021, when Max won, he entered this stretch of the season with a huge lead and came out of Spa in trouble. They're well, not necessarily Spa. I think Hungary was when he got in trouble, because they had Silverstone and Hungary back to back, and Silverstone he got wrecked by Lewis, and Hungary is when Bottas became a bowling ball and took out a bunch of cars.
That's fair. Did you
I think that was Hungary.
maybe
Yeah, I think it was Hungary.
did you see George Russell stabbing at Lando for the Lando stands?
No,
George was saying that he had fans in the Lando stands, and Lando was basically like, "Yeah, but my fans are passionate." And I was like, "Let's fucking go."
that's good. That's good.
I was like, honestly, like I know a lot of people love Lando and a lot of people don't like Lando. I'm a Lando fan myself, so I was just stoked about it, especially since I hate George Russell. But like that was like the perfect comeback. Is like, yeah, at least my fans are passionate.
I like Lando. He just rubbed me wrong last year. He made a lot of ignorant comments, which, in fairness
In the
to him,
championship battle, that's going to happen.
in fairness to him, he kind of admitted later how stupid some of the things he said was. But I don't like people who try to discredit the accomplishments of others.
Yeah.
Like, look, prop up your dude. Like, look, I hate George, but I'm not going to shit on his accomplishments when he does good. Like, hey, that's dumb. Like, it takes common sense. Like, I'm not going to shit on Lando's championship. Should he have won it by more? Yes. But he still won a title. Who gives a shit how close it got? He still won the title. He is an F1 world champion. You can't take that away.
Yeah.
Like,
Ever.
so you know, there's a level of respect that you have to show for someone's results. And I think Lando's comments about really Lewis and Max, you know, talking about how it's easy with the best car. Like, yeah, you realize real quickly it's not.
I
It's not at all.
I feel like that's a and obviously we're taking Max and Lewis into consideration with this, but like for somebody that's not Max and Lewis to be in the chase or in the lead for the title, those kind of comments kind of sound normal in terms of competitiveness. I'm not saying they're right, but what I am saying is that competitive people that have never won a championship are probably going to make those same comments. But you don't see Max making those comments, and you don't see Lewis making those comments. And honestly, you never did when they
Because
first were in the chase. But at the end of the day, if you go back in F1 history, there's plenty of people that have made the similar comments or similar cocky bullshit as
I don't
Lando.
mind cocky. I mind losing perspective because you look at 2021, man. Max and Lewis were so far ahead of their teammates and the rest of the field that they were in their own category. You go back and watch the races in 2021. Max and Lewis are 40 seconds ahead of third place pretty much every race. They had this huge gap to the rest of the field. So to almost discredit anything in the case of like, oh, it's easy to win if you have the best car. No, it's not. It's yes, it makes life easier, but it's not as cut and paste that Max made it look when he had the nearly immaculate season, like, or how Lewis made it look at times at Mercedes.
That's
And
fair.
I think Lando found out firsthand, and that's why later on, kind of, you know, in the off season, kind of backed down on some of his comments, which gave me a little bit more respect for him. Like, he's young, you learn quickly, not like Max hasn't said some ignorant shit at times.
Or multiple times.
He has some moments. Um, I also want to give some love to Nicholas Soloff.
You stole my fucking like switch.
Holy
I
shit,
had a
this kid.
plan. I had a plan.
Yeah, well, too slow. Holy shit. I tell you what, and this is one of the first times I can say this. I have been just excited about the F2 season as the F1 season. Because I don't think Lando's season was pretty impressive. But there's not a lot of seasons in F2 as impressive as what Soloff is doing as a rookie. I'll give Lando and George some credits on their seasons in F2, but Soloff has 6 wins already. 4 of them feature race wins. He's won 3 in a row if you're including sprint races, 2 feature races and a sprint race in a row. He did the double at Silverstone, which is notoriously difficult. This and he didn't do it from pole. He was 6th in the sprint, 5th in the race. He just his racecraft, his tenacity, like he wasn't all that impressive in F3. I don't know where this came from. In F3, he was just kind of ho hum. He had really good moments. He also had some bad ones. This year, something's just clicked with this kid. He's 19 and putting it to a pretty talented F2 grid. I'm there's levels in every form of motorsport, and I feel like this kid is showing that, like, come get me. I am the champion here unless somebody stops it. And I've been incredibly impressed with how good he's been this year.
What we talked about this in pre-show, but what is the likelihood he moves up?
Man, that this kind of harkens back to what we talked about last week, and it's there's
Honestly,
5 drivers for 4 seats, and all 5 drivers are performing at very high levels.
and honestly, the only it's either Lawson loses a seat or Max leaves and Lawson moves up.
I think for Soloff, the best thing that could happen would be Max to leave.
Yeah.
Then he gets an F2 seat. Because the problem is you can't really get rid of Lawson either. Lawson is doing amazing.
Yeah, he's beating Lindblad every
and not
race.
just beating him. They're both getting in the points every race.
But Lawson's ahead of
Yeah.
Lindblad every single. Do you remember what you said in pre-show?
Yeah. 4 races in a row that they have finished one behind the other, Lawson ahead of Lindblad.
Exactly.
And, they did it again this weekend. But that's also the thing. You can't get rid of Lindblad because as a rookie, he's looking phenomenal. He's scoring points at a really impressive clip. He's getting beat by his teammate, but an experienced teammate who's been through a lot and is a really fast driver. And he's getting beat by one position every race.
So here's a question. Do you think somewhere within the Red Bull organization that they're wagering on Max leaving?
I think if Max were to leave, this is the best season for Red Bull for it to happen. Because I think Red Bull are set
But
up really well for the future.
but that's not the question. Do you think they're wagering on it? Do you think they're internally, like with the board and everything, placing opinions and not necessarily bets per se, but like kind of weighing the options of like, well, if Max leaves, this is what we'll do. Or if Max doesn't leave, this is what we'll do. Do you think they're actually doing that internally?
Well, I think you have to, and I think it's becoming more and more realistic as time goes on. And I want to watch how I say this. I think I think for Red Bull, long term, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Max left. But he would have to do it this year for that to be the case.
Yeah.
Because then they could focus on re- rebuilding the organization in whatever the new embodiment is. Max is the last thing harkening back to the old era and the old way of doing things, which I like that era. I'm not necessarily saying I'd prefer this, but if you are Red Bull, if Max is going to leave, you would prefer him to do it this year because your driver academy is in a great place to replace him. You have a bunch of talented guys. Hadger's getting on with the car now. He's performing well, so you can put a Lawson or a Lindblad beside him. Let him lead the team, and you might struggle at first, but for longevity purposes, it wouldn't be the end of the world. What's gonna be weird is what do they do if Max stays? Because Lindblad is their highly touted rookie. He's not going anywhere. Lawson is performing so good that you really don't think he's going. It would, to me, it would be a mistake to get rid of Lawson, even for Soloff. Hadger is doing amazing. So what do you do with Soloff? Do you throw him in Super Formula for a year? Because if he wins F2, he can't go back there. You're not allowed to go back to F2 if you win the championship. So how do you avoid him becoming a Porcher?
So do you think somewhere within the Red Bull organization they're pushing Max out potentially at all?
I don't think it's at that point yet, but I think it's getting there.
I'd be willing to say it's already at that point.
It may be with some people in the organization, and that could be what the problem is. Is part of the turmoil in the organization could be that some people are ready to be done with Max, especially some of the new guard
Yeah.
who don't have the same connection. It's
It's hard. It's really hard, but
it's a really complex situation because you have one of the best drivers in the world who hates this generation of car. If this generation continues to be the future, it's probably not the best person to have. But if the changes are made, you really want Max. So you're kind of put in a real weird situation, and it seems like Max's camp is very unhappy.
It's not only Max's camp; it's just Max too.
Well, yeah, but Max
Mm,
and his agent Ray are very close.
yes, but like
Very, very close. He employs Ray, or employed Ray's son for a while. Um,
I feel like if your driver's unhappy, that's the biggest smoking point because his team can be unhappy. Obviously, Oscar has Mark Webber, who's very close with the Red Bull.
but I don't
Mark
think Mark
Webber,
is as hands on.
but just let me finish. Mark is obviously unhappy. I'm sure Oscar is in some ways, but maybe not in the same ways that Mark Webber is. Max can be unhappy, and his team can approach Red Bull in a different demeanor, in a much more pleasant, unhappy but less. His team could approach Red Bull with a more pleasant, unhappy demeanor than Max would. But like the fact of the matter is that Max is unhappy.
Well, and I mean, the truth is, we're going to find out soon because at the summer break,
Silly season.
his clause triggers
Yeah.
because there is no way mathematically he can now make it into the point standing required. So when we hit the midseason break, his exit clause is triggered.
Yeah.
He can officially leave Red Bull if he wants.
I mean, it's crazy because we literally had this conversation last year at this exact moment.
But last year it didn't feel real. This year it feels real.
Yes,
This year I
but
really believe if you were to tell me I have to bet my life savings on is Max in a Red Bull car next year, that's not the same bet that I could have made last year.
I
I'm
feel
not so sure right now.
I feel like you said Max might not be in a Red Bull seat at the end of the year last year. Can't say for certain. So if anybody watching, listening, whatever,
Might
can
not
go
and
back.
will not are not the same words. I currently would be very surprised if Max is driving a Red Bull next year, and really, I'd be surprised if he's in F1 next year.
I would be surprised if he didn't end up at McLaren, and less surprised if he didn't end up in GT, just leaving F1.
I think that option's more likely leaving
What?
F1.
Yeah, but we talked about last week that McLaren has a lot to offer in terms of like other series racing,
They
and they
have to
have a
be
hypercar and stuff like
they have to
that.
be willing to offer it though.
For Max Verstappen, are you serious? I'm pretty sure any team on the
Everyone has
grid.
their limits. Mercedes has their limits with what they wanted,
Well, because they bought fucking Kimi Antonelli.
but I don't think Mercedes would let Max do all the stuff that he's doing.
I think if it came to terms and Zach Brown's the CEO of McLaren, he would bend bridges to make sure Max got what he wanted. I'm willing to put money on that.
I would like to think that's the case. But he does have an ego.
He does, but also we've seen the affinity that he has for Max for
But
years now.
the problem with Max at McLaren is Max is not going to listen to a team order to let Lando by. Ever.
unless GP's there.
He ain't going to listen then. Did he listen to GP in Brazil for Checo? Fuck no.
That's true. That's true.
Actually, he said on the radio, "Don't you ever fucking ask me this again."
That's fair.
Like, Max is not a team order guy.
I think if Max went to McLaren, there'd be a whole new rule of team
There ain't
rules.
no papaya rules if Max is in
Yeah,
McLaren.
yeah, no, it's Max rules.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
That's where I see Max is clashing with McLaren. Is Zach Brown is big about team above the driver, that no driver matters more than the team.
and
You
that
get
fucked
Max,
them almost last year. That
you get
almost
Max
fucked them.
Verstappen. Max is above your team. Red Bull's dealing with that right now. That is the problem of a Max Verstappen. Is you get the greatest driver in the world, but you also get all the things that come with that. And Max is not an easy person to deal with because Max cares about one thing: winning races. And if you're not winning races, Max isn't a happy driver. Or if you're not giving him the chance to compete for race wins. But also, I'd like to mention that it it wasn't until some of the stupid things started happening that Max started getting angry. Because Max had content moments last year where it's like, yeah, we don't have the car. It is what it is. I'll just race the hell out of it. I think
I
he's
don't think
getting.
he's gonna get that this year.
It
I
doesn't.
don't, because
I really, I
he's
really
fed up
thought we were
already.
getting there. We had the good race at Barcelona. Was Barcelona the last race? What was the last race? No, Austria was the last race. What the fuck am I
Austria's
talking about?
last race.
Yeah, yeah, Austria, where he had a chance to win, and you could see a little bit of that spark back, even with the qualifying issue that happened.
But the
You, you,
difference between that and now is that that happened in qualifying, not during the race. And this happened on the literally like the last 2 laps of the race. He fucking had a rear wing failure and
well,
crashed out.
and he said something in one of his interviews after the race, like, look, things can go wrong. One time it happening, stuff happens. Twice in a row, this is dangerous and a problem. And let's be real, that's a track Max already has some bad history with the Lewis Hamilton wreck. What if that's the corner this happened at?
Is
And
it though?
Max flies into that wall at full speed. What if that's the corner it happened at? And Max gets another 60G impact into a wall. Then what are we talking about? Like the fact is,
Been
this
way
could have
worse.
been a bad accident.
Yeah.
If it happens on the other side of the track, you'd be talking about Max in hospital again.
Yeah.
Like that's where Joe had his bad flip over the barrier. That's where Max had his big wreck. Like you were a couple corners away from this being a much different conversation, and
So
probably that wing being outlawed for all teams.
this ended up being a full F1 episode, but there is one thing before we end that I want to ask you, and it's, what would you say to Red Bull right now? What would you, Josh, say to Red Bull right now?
That's a tough question.
You can say all of it. That we have plenty of minutes left. You could say all of it.
Honestly, I don't know what the best path forward is for them.
I just feel like there's something digging inside of you that you need to say. Like
I
I can see it in you, and I mean I've been friends with you for
the
over a
problem is
decade.
I have internal conflict over it because there is a part of me that sees it better for Red Bull long term if Max leaves.
I would agree with that. Yeah, 100%.
But there is also a part of me that thinks about everything you lose in the process. How
I
many
don't.
years does it take to rebuild? And do we find out Max? This is my worry. In my head, I think it would be better for Red Bull long term if Max leaves. I think it's becoming too much of a problem internally. What I worry about is finding out that Max is even better than we thought he was. And it's another couple of years before we see a Red Bull driver win a race again. Because it was they went a long while for someone not named Sebastian Vettel to win a race for Red Bull.
That's fair.
And I worry about another couple year winless stretch if Max is gone.
I mean, that's almost guaranteed.
But I
Almost
also worry
guaranteed.
about Max adapting to this rule set.
I'm not worried about Max adapting to the rule set because if McLaren doesn't offer something worthy for him, he's just going to leave.
Well, I'm talking about with Red Bull. Like,
The
I
way
mean,
the
there's
way I
stuff
see it,
changing next year, so maybe not so much. I don't. It's difficult. It really is difficult because when you look at a situation with Soloff, man, that kid is so good, and what the fuck do you do with him?
I see it differently though. I see it black and white. It's either McLaren offers him something that he's happy with and he goes McLaren, or he leaves F1 because
Yeah, I
Max,
don't see another team that he would go to.
well, but also Max has made it very clear 3 years ago, before these regulations came into effect, that he was unhappy with them. And now the regulations are here and he's unhappy with them. I I think it's either at this point McLaren or he's out of F1 like completely. And he's just GT racing. Like that is the only way I see this happening because the
But yeah,
changes that
there's
Red
no other
Bull
seat available.
well, but also the changes that Red Bull needs to make organizationally to make Max happy isn't going to happen. It isn't going to happen. Max's race engineer is going to McLaren in 2028. GP is going to McLaren. They're not sharing information with GP. They're not sharing information with Max's team. They're not sharing important things or listening at this point to Max in order for him to stay. I feel like what we're seeing now is the bridge already burned down without knowing about it. Because in order for this stuff to come to light, we've been in the F1 community for a while now. You longer than me. That smoke would have shown already. This is not smoke. This is fire.
Well, you know what worries me about it and makes me think there's something to it? We've barely heard from Yas. And normally he's very vocal. And the fact that he's not saying shit makes me think something's actually happening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because Yas is very, very rarely quiet about things going on with Max. And if you notice, he's the one person you're not hearing shit from right now.
Yeah.
And that strikes my radar. I noticed that. I noticed his voice missing from the discussion. And that worries me a little bit. And I don't know, maybe I've just already started my copium early for Max leaving, and I'm just convincing myself, now that no, good things will happen. It'll be okay.
No. No. No, 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 no. Sorry to ruin your copium, but no. I love you, but no.
I honestly also would just rather have him quit F1 than have to see him in a McLaren uniform.
And that's where I come in. Because I'm like, let's fucking go.
I already had to watch Seb in a fucking Ferrari. I don't know if I can watch Max in a McLaren. That ugh.
I've got the kit.
Ugh, just it makes it like bubbles anger. Just immediately, I'm just like,
Well, but here's something that you said to me that I need to say to you is that you don't need to like the team principal to like the team. I hate Zach Brown. I
I've
fucking
only
hate
ever
Zach Brown.
seen Max Verstappen in a Red Bull outfit.
But here,
Seeing him in any other team, no. Because all right, like look at Lewis. Lewis, I got to see Lewis for a year in McLaren, or well, a couple years in McLaren before he went to Mercedes. So it wasn't as big of a shock of him being in Ferrari because Lewis came up in the McLaren Academy, not through Mercedes directly. So I had seen him in another team and win a championship with another team. He won a championship with McLaren. Max, I have only seen Max race for Red Bull or a Red Bull team in Toro Rosso.
I
Seeing him in McLaren would just
I I get that, but it sounds like you're saying you're more of a Red Bull fan than a Max fan, and I know that's not the truth. That's not the
no,
truth
it
at all.
is. I 100% am more of a Red Bull fan than a Max fan.
Which is wild to hear.
I
And anybody listening, fucking clip this.
I stand Red Bull everything. I watch. I'm a Shane fan because he raced for Red Bull up even in his Formula, what would now be Formula Regional days. It was Formula 4 back then. He raced for Red Bull then, and in supercars he was a Red Bull guy. You know, if I turn on a MotoGP race, I'm rooting for whoever's in one of the Red Bull teams or the KTM team or whatever. If I'm watching endurance racing, it's like, oh, I know the guys who are Red Bull sponsored. That's how I became a Toyota fan because they had Buemi and then eventually had Hartley when Hartley left Porsche. I I am a Red Bull fan before I am anything in any form of motorsport. If you put a Red Bull logo on a car, I root for that car.
Okay.
I love Max Verstappen. He is my favorite race car driver. The moment he puts on a kit that is not Red Bull's, I don't root for Max in F1 anymore.
Well, that answers the question I was going to ask. And wow.
In endurance racing, yeah, sure, whatever. The
In
moment
F1,
Max touches another car in F1, that's not my favorite driver anymore.
well, we'll discuss your next favorite driver on next episode.
Oh, that's easy. Soloff. Not even a question.
I'm talking current F1 driver, not potential soon to be F1 driver.
Ooh, that's tough between Arvid and Lawson.
But we can discuss that next episode. At this point, we've got a US FIFA match to watch.
Yes, I have to watch Belgians cry about red cards.
Yes, but before we go, we've never done this, and I think it's really important to do because we don't put ads in our show or anything like that. If you watch or listen, please like or subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen on. That is hugely helpful for us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, follow, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
Spotify, follow, Apple Podcast, follow, whatever it is. If you like what we put out, please take the time to follow us or do something, because at the end of the day, that is what enables us to continue creating our content and our show. We're not big on doing ad spots in the middle of the show or anything like that. That's not our thing, especially since we have literally, it's just conversation the entire time. There's really no place to put an ad anyway. Um, but yeah, subscribe, follow, whatever platform you're on. But yeah, I think that's where we'll end the show.
Yeah, we are an independent group. We don't have a media company behind us. We do this and fund this all ourselves, purely for love of the game. So, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. If you're on Apple Podcasts, give us a nice little 5-star rating.
Same on Spotify. I think Spotify has ratings too. So
Did they finally put ratings on Spotify podcasts? They haven't for the
maybe,
longest time.
I don't know. I don't know.
Fuckers.
But yeah, like we really enjoy doing this for you guys, and it's not us guilt tripping you into doing this. It's more just like, hey, we enjoy doing this, and if you like hearing us, then help us out, because the bigger we grow, the more we can do, the more content we can give you, in terms of, at some point, maybe content with Red Bull or content with McLaren or content with Williams or anything. Like, the more you support, the more it helps us, the more it helps us give you good things. But yeah, I think that's where we'll end the show today.
Yep. And soon we'll have some more cool things that we're doing. We have a lot of stuff that we're slowly getting in the pipeline and making improvements to. So hopefully it'll work better than Red Bull's rear wing.
It'll always work better than Red Bull's rear wing.
That's a good place to stop it.
But yeah, we love you guys so much, and thank you for tuning in. As always, I've been Tyler,
I've been Josh.
and we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.